Namaste and good morning to all of you. Let's start the class with the Gita Dhyana. Om Parthaye Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayan Swayam Vyasen Gratitam Puran Munna Madhye Mahabharatam Advaita Amrit Varshine Bhagavati Mashtadashadhyayane Amutva Manusandhane Bhagavad Gita Bhavadveshane Namastu Te Vyas Vishal Buddhe Full Arvind Ayat Patra Neta येन तव्या भारत तैलपूर्णः प्रज्वलितो ज्ञानमय प्रदीपः प्रपन्न पारिजाताये तोत्र वेत्र एकपाने ज्ञान मुद्राये कृष्णाय गीता अमृत दुहे नमः सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दोग्धा गोपाल नंदना पार्थो वत्सा सुधीर भोक्ता दुग्धम गीता अमृतम महतम वसुदेव सुतम देवम कंस चानूरमर्दनम देवकी परमानंदम कृष्णं वंदे जगद्गुरुम् भीष्म द्रोण तटा जयद्रथ जला गांधार नीलोत्पला शल्य ग्रावती कृपेन वहनी कर्णेन वेलाकुला अश्वत्थाम विकर्ण घोर मकरा दुर्योधन अवर्तनी सो तीर्णा खलु पांडवै रन नदी के वर्तका केशवा पाराशर्य वत्सरो जमलम गीता अर्थ गंधोटकम नाना ख्यानक केसरम हरि कथा संबोधन अबोधिकम लोक के सज्जन शतपदय रह पे पिए मानम मुदा भूयाद भारत पंकजम कलिमल प्रध्वंसी न श्रेयसे मूकं करोति वाचालम पंगुम लंघ्यते गिरिम यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानंद माधवम यम ब्रह्म वरुण इंद्र रुद्र मरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यस्तवे वेदै सांग पद क्रमोपनिषदै गायन्ति यम सामगा ध्यानवस्थे तद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यम योगिनो यस्यन्तं न विदुसुर असुरगणा देवाय तस्मै नमः। Bhagavad Gita, that is a book we study on Sundays, and we are on chapter number 3, the Karam Yog. If you remember, the first chapter was Vishad Yog, second chapter Sankhya Yog, third chapter Karam Yog. Okay. You should know. These are almost like each chapter is an Upanishad itself. Upanishad is a dialogue between a guru and the disciple. And we saw that in the beginning of this chapter also, Arjuna voiced out his confusion. And now his guru, Lord Krishna, is explaining. And we ended our last week's class, verse number 17. Because Arjun's question was, which one is better? The path of knowledge or path of action? So Lord Krishna is talking about that, explaining what this knowledge truly is and what action truly is. So in verse number 17, he's talking about those people who are self-realized. That doesn't mean they don't do the action, but the doership has left them. So he says, Yatu atmrati ev syat atam tripta cha manava atmani ev cha santushtaha tasya karyam na vidyate. He says, the man who rejoices only in the self, that means the soul, who is satisfied with the self, who is content in the self alone, for him, verily, there is nothing more to be done. Okay, so this is like a Karam sannyasi he's talking about. So only those who have given up desires for external objects, they can rejoice and be satisfied in the self. Okay, they have risen above the root of the bondage. And root of the bondage is what? Material desires. We do the actions because we want certain fruit. So these are the self-realized people he's talking about. So now let's start today's class. Verse number 18. Na eva tasye kriten artha, na akriten ihi kaschan, na cha asye sarvabhuteshu kaschit arth vyapashreha. Na is not, ev means even, the say of him. Kritain, by action, arthaha, concern or any gain. So he's talking about, this is in connection with the verse number 17, that self-realized person. Na akritain, na is not akritain. By action not done, akrit. So kritain or akritain, ih means here question, whatsoever. Second line, na means not, cha means and, asya, of this person. Sarva bhuteshu, in all beings, kaschit, any, arthvyap ashraya, depending for any object. For him, this Karam sannyasi, there is here no interest. Whatever is done or what is not done. Nor does he depend upon any being for any object. So we can see that how clearly he is talking about that kind of an individual who has the subjective experience of the spiritual stature in him. He has found the eternal satisfaction in his own self. He has reached that perfect contentment. So whether actions are being performed or not being performed, it doesn't matter to him. Because he is finding the rejoice, the satisfaction, the contentment within himself. So this kind of individual is rooted in the experience of the self, depending upon nothing, neither any being nor any object for his joy and bliss, because he has found the self. All the objects of the world are essentially nothing for him. Nothing for him. There are two kinds of saints historically, we see. And these saints, when I'm talking about, they're the self-realized human beings. First category is like Prahlad, Dhruv, Prithu, Vibhishan. They were self-realized, but they continue to discharge their worldly duties, even after attaining their transcendental platform. Or even Janak. There are many. Our history books are filled up with the names and the stories of these great personalities. These were Karam Yogis. Externally, they were doing their duties with their body, but internally, their minds were attached to God. Okay? So they were just doing the duties for the sake of doing duty, not to get any happiness or any kind of a name or fame or any kind of a object. And there are other category of self-realized souls also, saints also. Shankaracharya ji, Madhvacharya, Ramanujacharya, they rejected their worldly duties. Yeah? They became sannyasis. So they accepted the renounced order of life, sannyas. Okay. Sure, their mind was also absorbed in God, just like the others. But they even engaged in the devotion to God physically too. So King Janak, he was a king, doing kingly duties, living like a king, but mind was absorbed in God. But Shankaracharya ji, body was also doing godly things only. And mind was, of course, absorbed in God. So we got to remember that Lord Krishna is talking about Karam Yogis and Karam Sannyasis for us. And he is teaching us through Arjuna that we got to do our duties as an offering to God. Offering to God. If we want to perfect ourselves, if we want to attain our ultimate goal. Okay, so but in these two verses, we see that he is talking about the Karam Sannyasis. Karam Sannyasis. Now, in the next verse, verse number 19, he is giving his recommendation to Arjuna. Because Arjuna said, you tell me what to do. So he says, this is what I'm recommending. He says, Tasmat asaktaha satatam karyam karam samachar asaktahi acharan karam param apnoti purusha. Tasmat, therefore, asaktaha, without attachment, satatam, always, karyam, duty. That means work which needs to be done. Karam, action, samachar, perform. Asaktaha, without attachment. He means because acharan, performing, karam, action, param, the supreme, apnoti, attains, purusha, the person, a man. Therefore, always perform actions which should be done without attachment. By performing action without attachment, a man attains the supreme. So we don't have to let go of our duties, do the duties, but this is the way we should do it without getting attachment. So again, Lord Krishna is recommending for Arjuna to be a Karam Yogi first. We cannot jump up and become a Karam Sannyasi without becoming a Karam Yogi. So this is a Karam Yogi's definition. Okay, so we'll see that he'll give more reasons in the following verses also, why he should be a Karam Yogi. So far in this chapter, he has talked about the wheel of action. And he's encouraging us to keep on doing your duty. Always perform actions which are your obligations. And we have seen it in the past verses. It's our duty to take care of this body. It's our duty to take care of this environment, which our ancient rishis, they call them devatas. It's our duty because we get something from them. Our life is dependent upon them. So we got to give back also. Any place we live, any community we are part of, it's our duty to take care of it. It's a duty to take care of our parents. So there's so many duties we have. We've been talking about it in this chapter. So Lord Krishna is saying, always perform actions which are obligatory in your present social status. In your domestic situations also, as a member of the community and even the nation also. Abiding the rules when we are driving on the street, that's our duty. We live in a house, it's our duty to take care of it. We live in this body, it's a duty to take care of it. So there are several duties we have, we got to do them. So Lord Krishna is repeating his warning to Arjuna that he must be careful in all his activities to keep his mind away from all dangerous attachment. See, that is the danger. There's no danger in doing the duty, but the danger is when we get attached to when we do the duties. So that's why he says, without attachment to do the duties. Without attachment. Okay, and for the following reason also, we should perform action. In verse number 20, he says, Karmana ev hi samsiddhim asthita janak adya lok sangraham evapi sampashyan kvartum aharasi. Karmana, by actions, performance of the duties. Karmana, ev means only, he means verily. Samsiddhim, perfection. Asthita, attained. Janakadya, Janak and others. Okay, normally we use the mention King Janak, but there have been many others also. Okay, so that's why Lord Krishna is saying Adi, Janakadi. Lok Sangraham, welfare of the masses, welfare of the people. Evapi, only. Sampashyan, having a view, sampashyan. Kartum, to perform. Aharase, you should. Janak and others attained perfection, verily by action only. Even with a view to protecting the masses, you should perform action. Okay? So that's why he's very strongly suggesting it to him that do not run away. This is your duty. Sure, you want to attain perfection. By doing the duties, you can attain the perfection. He says King Janak attained perfection through Karam Yog while discharging his kingly duties. And even after reaching the transcendental platform, he continued to do his worldly duties. Purely for the reason to set a good example for the masses, for the world to follow. And many other saints did the same. Because we all know that humanity is inspired by the leaders like that. Ideal way to live. As human beings, we need some kind of a leader. So the leaders of the society, they have a moral responsibility to set lofty examples for inspiring the rest of the population. And that's what Lok Sangraham means. Okay, it's like a group of people. The leaders, the way they speak, the way they act, it has a direct impact in the public. Okay. When noble leaders are in the forefront, the rest of the society naturally gets uplifted in morality, in selflessness, and even in spiritual values. That's why the leaders should have that quality. Great personalities, and then we are all leaders also. In our own homes, we are leaders as parents. At our workplace also, we are leaders. Sure, some places we are followers, but we are leaders also. So the great personalities should always act in an exemplary manner to set the standard for the world. Okay? They inspire others. So that's what Lord Krishna is saying, that the wise kings of the past, they did it. And Arjun is a prince, a Kshatriya. So that's why he's giving example of a king over here. So he says that, Arjun, you are a prince by birth. You have taken up yourself the entire responsibility of mobilizing and fighting for the people. It's not your personal war. It is to set an example. And this is the only method which will work for you, and you will attain perfection. Okay. So now let's see how we can act. Yat yat achrati shreshtaha tat tat eva itraha jana sa yat pramanam kurute lokaha tat anuvartate. Yat whatsoever achrati does, shrestha the best, tat that, ev means only, itraha the other, jana people. Sa means he, that means that great man, that leader. Yat means what? Pramanam, standard, authority. Kurute does, lokaha the people, that means that, anuvartate follows. Whatever a great man does, that other people also do. So that means they imitate. Okay. Whatever he sets up as his standard, that the world follows. Okay. So this standard is very clearly set by the leaders. That's why the leaders have this responsibility. And over here, basically what he is saying, a man is essentially an imitating animal. We imitate each other. That's why the fads in the society, one person does it, masses do it. One person speaks like that, a leader does, everybody starts to speak like that. This is a psychological truth. And if we want a rejuvenation, ethical or moral, we got to have leaders like that. We got to have great people to set up an example for us. And wherever we are the leaders, we got to set an example, got to watch. Students can be disciplined only when teachers are well behaved. So teachers have that responsibility. Children's behavior depends entirely upon by the standard of purity and culture of their parents. Okay, so as parents, as grandparents, we have this responsibility. If a great leader of a society becomes a Karam sannyasi and renounces work, he is definitely giving an example or a precedent for others. Sure, that person may be a Karam sannyasi, but he is a leader also. But others may not be Karam sannyasis and they say he is not doing it, we don't want to do it either. So that's why as long as you have that duty, you got to make sure that outwardly you still keep on engaging in your duties. Okay? Because others in the society, they use the examples of this kind of a person. They will say that this, our leader is not doing it, we are not going to do it either. So externally renouncing the action does not help. There is a famous couplet by Tulsidas ji. He said, Brahm Gyan Janyo Nahi. So when we know the Brahm Gyan, that means you are at the transcendental state. Brahm Gyan Janyo Nahi Karam Diye Chhatkaye. Tulsi aisi Atma Sahaj Narak Mein Jaye. So in other words, you have not even reached there. You haven't even reached to the roof and you let go of the ladder. What will happen? This is a ladder. Doing your duties properly without getting attached to the outcome. That is the ladder. So if we let go of the ladder, sure we'll fall. And this is what Tulsidas ji is saying. You will slip below the level of people or your own level where you even started. So he is suggesting to Arjun that practice Karam Yoga. Now in the next verse, we see that he is giving his own example. Lord Krishna as an avatar, he is giving his example. Okay, avatar. He's God man. He says, I really don't have to do anything, but I still do it. Because if whatever I do, people will follow. And I don't want people to follow wrongly. So he says, Na me parth asti kartavyam, trishu lokeshu kinchana, na anvatpatam avapatavyam, varte evcha karmani. Na means not, me means my, parth, Arjun, asti is kartavyam, to be done, a duty. Trishu, in the three, lokeshu, worlds, kinchan, anything. Na means not, anvapatam, unattained. Avaptavyam, to be attained. Varte, engaged. Ev means also. Cha means and. Karmani, in action. There is nothing in the three worlds, O Parth, that has to be done by me. Nor is there anything unattained that should be attained by me. Yet I engage myself in action. Okay, so he's giving his own example that I don't need anything. Not only over here, but in the other worlds also. The three worlds. As a true yogi, he did not have any desire for achieving or gaining anything in the world. But he was in the battlefront, only as a sense of duty towards the noble and the righteous people. He took the side of the dharma, the righteousness. In fact, Lord Krishna's entire life is a constant unveiling of this detachment from the birth all the way up to now also. We saw that when he was born, he was taken away from his parents and went to Yashoda and Nandarai, to Gokul, then Gokul to Vrindavan. Then suddenly he was called to do the duty to get his parents out of the jail, grandfather out of the jail. And he had to defeat and kill the tyrant uncle Kansa. Duty, not for himself, his duty. Automatically he gave that kingdom to King Ugarsen because it belonged to him. Then we know the rest of the story also, from the Mathura to Dwarka. And now, at the time of this great war, he took the position of a charioteer. So total detachment, only the duty. So this kind of a personality, when they work, there's only one reason: to be a good leader, to be exemplary, to do everything for the welfare of others. And in the next verse, he is explaining to us, what do we accomplish when we do actions like this for the welfare of others? He says, Yadihi aham na varteyam jatu karmani at indrita mam vartam anuvartante manushya parth sarvasha. Yadi, if, he means surely, aham I, na means not, varteyam, engage in action, jatu, ever, karmani, in action, atindrita, carefully, without relaxation. So it's like if with a full alertness. Mam means my, vartam, path, anuvartantehe, follows, manushyaha, men, parth, sarvashaha, in all respects. He says, if I am not ever engaged myself in action carefully, men would in every way follow my path, O son of Pritha. So that means he's saying, if I did not carefully perform the prescribed duties, O Parth, all men could follow my path in all respects. They'll say, our leader is doing it. It's okay to do it for us also. So he is stating that he would be at fault for leading the mankind astray. Are we that careful wherever we have a leadership role? Are we taking the responsibility? that I have to act like this, I have to speak like this, I have to do like this. So he's giving us a very clear reason that why should the Lord work? What would be the loss of the generation if he doesn't act the way he should? What will happen to the masses? Because masses will imitate their leaders, their heroes, their behavior. So he's very clearly telling us that be careful. Okay? Do take the actions seriously. Don't become careless about it. And over here we see that Lord Krishna is using the first person singular, but he is talking like as a self-realized, as a Atma, as a oneness with that Brahma. In that sense, he's talking to Arjuna. So that's why he says, I am doing it. I, an avatar, acting like this. Because generations to come, they will follow me. That doesn't mean that Lord Krishna talked like this all his life. He did not. Over here, the conversation is at a different level between Arjuna and Lord Krishna. So this I is coming from a different place. It's just like somebody talks like a salesman trying to convince somebody about the product which he's trying to sell. And he will say, we do this. Even though company is not owned by him, but at that point he can say that no, we will be behind this. We will do this. I will do it, taking the responsibility. So this is how Lord Krishna is talking over here. The oneness with that Brahmic state. In Mahabharata, when you read later on, after the war, Arjuna asked Lord Krishna again, can you give me that knowledge again? He says, no. That was a different time. Different situation. Okay. So this I over here, the first person singular used by Lord Krishna, is different over here. Okay, we got to keep that in mind. Utsi deyu ime loka na kuryam karam chetaham sankrasya cha kartasyam upahanyam ima praja. Utsi deyu would perish. Ime these lokaha, the worlds. No means not. Kuryam, I perform. Karam actions. Chet, if. Aham, I. Sankrasya, uncultured population. Cha means and, karta means author, the responsible. Sayam would be, upahanyam would destroy. Ima, these, praja, living entities, the beings. He says these worlds would perish if I did not perform action. I would be the author of confusion in the population. There will be, culture will be gone and would destroy these beings. So people, what they're supposed to do, they won't know what to do. So all happenings which is happening in harmony because of obeying the law governing them all, this law won't be followed. So Lord Krishna says, if I do not perform work, the world would perish. So the whole human society, we know that it's divided into the 4 varnas. So according to the varnas, see, even Lord Krishna also, he belonged to the kingly caste. His status was a king. So that's why he's saying that whenever I come, according to which status, I do the work according to that. And for the benefit of the entire human race and the welfare of the world. So it says, do not neglect your duties or your prescribed Vedic activities. There will be a confusion in behavior. There will be instability in the characters. Saktaha karmani avidvansaha yatha kurvanti bharat kuryat vidvan tatha asaktaha chikirshu lok sangraham. Saktaha, attached, karmani, actions, avidvansaha, the ignorant, opposite of the vidvan, avidvansaha. Yatha means as, kurvanti, act, bharat, that's for Arjuna. Kuryat, should act, vidvan, the wise, tatha means so, asaktaha, unattached, chikirshu, wishing, lok sangraham, the welfare of the world. As the ignorant men act from attachment to action. O Arjun, so should the wise person act without attachment, wishing the welfare of the world. Because often we say that, yeah, if I'm supposed to act, do my duty, what should be the motivation? Because ignorant person, motivation is what will get out of it, the reward. The wise person, the motivation is welfare of the world, living for the others. So motivation is there, but motivation is, I want to do for good for the society. So now we got to see the choice is ours. Do we want to stay ignorant or do we want to become wise? So Lord Krishna is again emphasizing that the wise should always act for the benefit of humankind. Just as the ignorant is fully attached to, what will I get out of it? Duties both are doing, but the motive behind the action decides whether we are ignorant or whether we are wise. So do we want to just stay ignorant or we want to become wise? This is the choice we got to see. Okay. So here Lord Krishna, a man of self-realization, he himself works in the society diligently, sincerely, tireless enthusiasm, and energizing joy. That's how he has worked. Anytime the picture of Lord Krishna comes to our mind, it's always smiling, always peaceful, always thinking about others, even as a little boy. Whether he killed that snake, that Kaliya Nag, or whether he protected the people over there, as a little boy, he protected the villagers from that unending rain. He lifted that Govardhan Parvat. Always, everything was done for the benefit of others. That's why he can talk like this. So he says, do not act for your own attachments. Because the attachments and anxieties for the fruits will put extra burden on you. It will really slide you down instead of evolving you. If you want to evolve yourself, go towards that goal, just remember your actions should be for the benefit of others, welfare of others. Kuryat vidvan tatha asaktaha chikirishu lok sangra. So get the motivation from there. And to such a person of wisdom, this vidvan, because he is encouraging us to become a vidvan, the wise. He says, work for the welfare of the society, become a service of man. And he is giving us advice in the next verse. Na buddhi bhedam janyet अज्ञानम कर्म संगिनाम जोशियेत सर्वकर्माणि विद्वान युक्ता समाचरण. No means not buddhi bhedam, unsettlement in the mind. Buddhi bhedam. Janyet should produce ajnanam of the ignorant. Karam sanginam of the persons attached to actions. Joshiyet should engage. Sarv karmani, all actions. Vidwan, the wise. Yuktaha, balanced. Samacharan, performing. He says, let no wise person unsettle the minds of ignorant people. Okay, so this is the advice he is giving it to us if you are on the path of improvement. Do not disturb somebody else's mind who are attached to action. Okay? He should engage them in all actions, himself fulfilling them with devotion. So you stay on your path as a great person, greater responsibility, because common people are following you. Your motivation is to help others. And if you see somebody else in the society, they are not acting like this, they are acting for their own reward, do not disturb them. Because 100% of the population, 100% of the time cannot be wise. There are other people, at least they are working, even if they are working for the lower rewards. Do not unsettle the minds of others. So it's like he's giving us an art of guiding mankind. Excuse me. Because Arjun is a leader. And we are also leaders in our own areas. So we got to keep this guidance in our mind. Because this guidance can be used by every leader in all societies, whether we are a social worker, or we are a political masters, or we are cultural teachers, or we are parents, or we are leaders in our business. So leaders should steadily and slowly guide the society to act in the right direction by their own example. So that's why he says, no wise person should unsettle his generations. It's like a firm faith in the actions. Encourage them to do the action. When they become active, then slowly you can mold them to become Karam Yogis. Then ultimately, Karam Sannyasis also. But he must himself diligently perform the ordinary actions in a diviner and in a better fashion. Become a good example. So that other people, they can automatically imitate him. Okay? Because we are all following somebody's footsteps. We all are following somebody's footsteps and leaving the footsteps behind for somebody else. So we got to see whose footsteps we are following and what kind of a footsteps we are leaving behind. Will it help with the future generation, or are we confusing the future generation with our own actions? We are responsible for it. Okay. So let's end the class here. Next week, we'll see that what else he's telling us from verse number 27. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnase Purnamadaya Purnameva Vishishyate. Om Shanti 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 Om.